The Magnavox Odyssey 2 is a second-generation home video game console that was released in 1978. It was sold in Europe as the Philips VideoPack G7000, in Brazil as the Philips Odyssey, and in Japan as Odyssey 2. The Odyssey 2 was one of the major three home consoles prior to the 1983 video game market crash, along with Atari 2600 and Intellivision. In the early 1970s, Magnavox pioneered the home video game industry by successfully bringing the first home console to market, the Odyssey, which was quickly followed by a number of later models, each with a few technical improvements. In 1978, Magnavox, now a subsidiary of North American Philips, decided to release an all-new successor, the Odyssey 2. The original Odyssey had a number of removable circuit cards that switched between the built-in games. With the Odyssey 2, each game could be a completely unique experience, with its own background graphics, foreground graphics, gameplay, scoring, and music. The potential was enormous, as an unlimited number of games could be individually purchased. A game player could purchase a library of video games tailored to their own interests. Unlike any other system at the time, the Odyssey 2 included a full alphanumeric membrane keyboard, which was to be used for educational games, selecting options, or programming. Magnavox released a cartridge called Computer Intro with the intent on teaching simple computer programming. The Odyssey 2 used the standard joystick design of the 1970s and early 80s, a black controller with an 8-pointed star-shaped housing for its 8-direction joystick. In the upper corner of the joystick was a single action button. The games, graphics, and packaging were designed by Ron Branford and Steve Lanier. The Odyssey 2 originally had controllers that were removable, whereas later versions were hardwired.
Watch out! Hurry!
Who's that talking, Wizard of Odyssey?
A voice! Odyssey 2's new voice module warning me of the dreaded caterpillar in Casey's crazy chase.
Run! Hurry!
One of the strongest points of the system was its speech synthesis unit, which was released as an add-on for speech, music, and sound effects enhancements.
Where the keyboard is the key to greater challenge.
UFO.
My first and favorite game is UFO. My brothers and I love this game. As an asteroids-type clone, it's very challenging. You fly a UFO around the play field, trying to avoid and also smash into objects that are floating around you. Every once in a while, there's a spaceship that comes out of nowhere and tries to gun you down. If you can survive, you can try to get the high score, and then even type your name so everyone can see who has the score to beat.
Speed links, pin out, and click to logic.
This was the packing game with the Odyssey 2. It has 3 games on one cartridge. The first, Speedway, has you driving a car and avoiding other cars on the roadway. Simple and just okay. Spin Out is a game for 2 people. You race a friend around the track, avoid the walls, and the other car to cross the finish line first. You can up the skill level that includes some walls you race through. Crypto Logic uses the keyboard and is kind of like Hangman but more boring. You enter a word or phrase and then the Odyssey scrambles it. The next person tries to guess the words, but the letters have to be in the exact order. At the end, it tells you how many times you messed up.
Baseball.
Baseball is a simple version of the national pastime. You and a friend pitch and hit and try to score more runs than the other person. You can only move your outfielders, but can throw to each base and hit homers if your opponent doesn't catch it first. Football is another simple version of the game. This is for 2 players only, though. You can select plays before the snap, and then you run or throw for a touchdown. I did love this game a lot when I was a kid, and at the time it was fun to play with friends.
Out of this world and helicopter rescue.
This was an early cartridge that had 2 games on it. Out of This World pits you against a friend to see who can land their spaceship and then dock with the mothership going back and forth above. You are limited with fuel, so you have to make it count. Helicopter Rescue has you flying your own helicopter, saving people from a tall building. If you don't have a clean run, you lose a point. My brothers and I spent many hours trying to get the best time.
Armored encounter and subcase.
Another 2-game cartridge with a tank game that is actually fun with another person. There are complex play fields and versions where you can guide the missiles after you're shot. The other game is where you play as either a plane or a sub and try and shoot and hit the other person. Both basic, but fun with another player. This game is an Invaders clone with a few twists. You start out as a gunner, but if you get hit, you turn into a player. If you hide behind one of the blinds and press the action button, you can change back to a gunner. This is a pretty difficult game, and trying to clear the board will be hard. This was the Odyssey's Pac-Man clone, but it is so much more than Pac-Man. Once the maze appears on the screen, you move, the ghosts move, and even the pellets move. This is the hook and the difficult part. The less pellets on the screen, the faster they go. The cartridge has a few variations in mazes and also has ones that disappear when you move. What is really cool is that you can program your own mazes, something that helps with the use of the keyboard. This game was removed from stores after Atari claimed it was too much like Pac-Man, which they had the rights for all the other consoles. It was replaced with KC's Crazy Chase.
Attack of the Time Lord. Defeat is at hand.
This game is kind of a spin on Galaga. The speech is not very clear, but it's cool to hear, and the fast-paced gameplay is very challenging.
Defeat is at hand. Smithereens. All clear. Open fire.
I actually really like this game. It has some funny speech phrases. You try to shoot over the barricades at your opponent. You just pull back on the joystick and vary the timing to arch your shot enough to hit the other person. This is a fun 2-player game.
Hurry, do it again. You blew it. Hypnos Spellbinder. Monster attack. Open fire.
This is a really interesting game. It's part educational and really would be better without the spelling. You try to shoot a centipede-like creature moving across the screen. After you kill the first one, you then have to spell. input your answers and then get another creature to shoot. It's kind of weird, but not sure if I would have played this much when I was a kid.
Watch out! Type and kill.
This is not really a game, but a way to show what the voice can do. When I was a kid, we had a friend that had one, and all we did was type in bad words.
Welcome to select game. Killer bees.
This is the only game I have that has a title screen. This takes a while to figure out, but you are a swarm of bees where you're trying to stop these robot-type things. As you sting them, they slow down, and then a tombstone appears when you kill them. At the same time, there are other swarms of bees chasing you. If you get caught too many times, you're eliminated. You also have this ray beam that you can fire at the swarms to kill them. It's a fast-paced game and quite fun.
Wizard of Odyssey? Is the keyboard really the key to greater challenge in video games?
Of course it is. You can play strategy games like Quest for the Rings. Plan your strategy.
The area that the Odyssey 2 may be best remembered for was its pioneering fusion of board and video games. It was called the Master Strategy Series. The first game released was Quest for the Rings, with gameplay somewhat similar to Dungeons & Dragons, and a storyline reminiscent of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Later, 2 other games were released in this series, Conquest of the World and The Great Wall Street Fortune Hunt. The Odyssey 2 is very nostalgic for me because it was my first console, but it also has an interesting place in history. Although it was not as popular as the Atari or the Intellivision at the time, it held its own for a while and had some pretty cool games. Thanks for watching.